failure is very part of life. I mean, there's a quote I dug up this morning from Winston Churchill saying, "Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm," which seems supremely British, that we sort of, it's like endlessly dealing with a rainy day, waiting for the sun, which happened today, but it's also unbelievably depressing. Do you think that we have a British thing towards failure, that we think it's all right, and we think failure is character building?
I think when Andy Murray wept at Wimbledon, he resigned himself to never winning again.
But hang on a minute, he is number 4 in the world, and he got to the finals.
Yeah, but that's not good enough, is it?
Under who?
How can a man be number 4 and say, I'm not good enough?
Well, he did.
I know, the world is ridiculous. I'm not disputing that. But he, at that point that he accepted heroic failure, forget it.
But do you think that there is something therapeutic in failure? I think that's what a lot of the self-help books say.
Well, he at that point became loved, didn't he? He became loved by people. It was better. No. When he was hated, he had more chance.
I mean, I think this thing of heroic failure is, I mean, when I was growing up, one of the many mythical kind of figures that we were directed to, I think, Scott of the Antarctic, that was the archetypal heroic failure, wasn't it? And it seemed sort of great in a way that they'd so tragically, failed to get to the pole before Amundsen. They died when they're just 10 miles away from a camp. So this kind of, I think that kind of stuff, when you're exposed to it so long, it seems to, at such a young age, it's a fairly short step from there to constantly losing at penalty shootouts, isn't it?
Francis Chichester, he's the one who went around the world, isn't he?
Yeah.
I remember him on one of those Frost programs. And he, there was talk of heroism. He said to the audience, who do you think of as heroic? And they all said, Captain Scott. And he said, why? Amundsen got there first. Why bother with the man who didn't get there first?
But is that because we like the underdog? We feel closer to them? Success frightens us?
I can't answer your question.
Okay, can you ask?
Too frightening to contemplate.
Well, it's funny. We go through all of our national history. There's so much of it. In a way, like the failure of Scott of the Antarctic, that proved one of the great sort of examples for, I don't know, you could say he paved the way for the Somme when a load of people, it became so bound up with this idea of sacrifice, didn't it? No, the idea that the sacrifice might be rather pointless is...
But it wasn't seen in quite the same way as just as a failure to get there, or do you think that it allowed us to make sacrifice? It allowed us to make failure heroic?
Yes, I think that would be the thing. The idea of the elevated idea of failure is important.
But at the same time, I mean, we are told over and over again that you have to succeed. That success, it is only... Right, we're about to start the Olympic Games, and you're going to have all these people coming, killing themselves for whatever it is, 9 seconds, and only one person. Do you understand that kind of wish to do that?
Well, I understand competitiveness, yes. Yes, yeah. That's separate from... That's another thing altogether, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, the moment you say there's competition, you also say there is failure, and then what does that failure mean? Is it heroic? Is it something?
Do you mean we should all play the game?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, do you accept it nicely and say, yes, really, I'm a failure? And is it like,
No, you presumably work out. If I do this, I'm not very good at it, but if I do that, I'm okay. So you actually become more realistic about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's this thing of what's interesting is the point at which the verdict on a particular thing that you're doing...
Geoff, we failed. They can't hear at the back. Is it me or him? All of us.
Yeah, the only solution is just to talk about it.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. So, more? Oh no, we're there. Okay. So I guess the interesting thing is the point at which the verdict on a particular work of art or attempt to win a sporting thing becomes absorbed absorbed by the person, and then the idea is that it becomes a sort of condition. It becomes your status, your failure. So to go back to tennis again, even more, I mean, Andy Murray is still this sort of aspirational figure, whereas Tim Henman was in this peculiar state. He was regarded absolutely as a failure while being consistently the fourth best tennis player in the world.
Why was that? Why? Why did we always say Henman was such a failure?
I think because something in our psyche craves that taste of ashes in the mouth, which he consistently delivered, even though, as he always pointed out, actually, only 3 people in this tournament had a better fortnight than I did. But I think maybe what that indicates is that this thing of success is absolute. There's an absolute thing of success, whereas failure is so kind of incremental.
Well, I mean, I actually would take issue with that, because if you're talking about, say, a book or a film or something you've created, it can be a success in one person's eyes, but it's not necessarily a success in your eyes. I mean, I haven't written books in the way that you have, but the only reviews I can remember are the ones that were awful, and you don't remember the ones that were good, and you don't remember things, so therefore your sense of success is completely hammered. In other words, I think it's relative. Okay. I mean, unless you are the one who wins the 100 metres, that's fine. Yes. That's clear. But in almost every other endeavour...
No, that would say something profound in your psyche, isn't it?
Well, it's saying could do better.
Presumably Wayne Rooney thinks about nothing except his failure for England.
Yes, and
he doesn't think about his success for Manchester United.
But I mean, again, you're giving Wayne Rooney your feelings. We don't know. Maybe Wayne Rooney thinks, actually, I'm still okay.
Well, because he's confronted by the evidence of his own inadequacy at a certain level.
Okay.
And he starts shouting at cameras and going bananas and getting sent off. So he can't escape it. And I imagine that's what keeps him awake at night.